Ganatimirandasya Ganagana Salakya Chaksurun Miritam Yanatashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri
Sri Chaitanya.
Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajevam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha Narayanam Navaskitam Naram Chaitanarotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jahodira Nashta Prayasho Badresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Tamashoki Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Nigamaka Paduragaritam Phalam Shukamakaramaritha Dervisamitam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamarayam Mahora Horasiku Bibi Bhavakaham Krishna Sadama Pavagate Dhamakini Karunashta Dishamasha Parana Koduno Ditaham Twamapiyada Vishita Vishatam Vipu Samapiyadena Bidam Biduksaram Prakyayidu Hamaram Sankleshana Banam Musanti Nanyataham Atmanamastamuni Anakanti Korbandia Dikitam Buddha Gana Hari Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhikanta Namostute Jayatam Sarito Pango Mama Mandir Matirgati Matsavashapadam Moja Radha Madanam Sriman Rasarasaram Vamsi Vanakarsan Pinasan Gopinata Sri Asana Divyad Brindaranya Kapadrumada Srimad Radnagada Shima Shanishto Shri Radha Shila Govinda Prastadabihi Sevamanashanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Tayaja Jagaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudhajaja Mangalam Panadikaksho Mangalayatu Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Chavidmahi Vishnu Padicha Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastibhyam Namastibhyam Sare Sare Hari Priya Namastibhyam Namastibhyam Tapta Kanchana Gonagira Arivindavaneswari Vishavana Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Sarasati Deva Gaurani Pachani Nirvishes Sunivadi Paskadades Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Just checking with Rob and Brent. Can you hear me okay? Brent, you can type something in the comments. Rob, can you hear me? Not getting anything from Rob this morning. I see his picture there, but not getting any audio. At least I hope that it's going from me.
Yes, Brother James.
Oh, okay, good. All right. We haven't done this for a while, so I want to make sure that all the kinks are worked out. Yes, and Brent says he can hear me as well. Super. Let's bring everyone up to date. As you know, we had a hiatus for a while because things got quite feverish with the Festival of Colors coming up. It needn't be as stressful as it is, but our friends from the Utah County Sheriff's Department seem to want to, somebody said squash. Squash is a good word. They seem to want to squash the festival, exercise oppressive, tyrannical oversight on the festival. And they always do their best to precipitate as much stress and pressure as they possibly can. So sometimes it's hard to balance the oppression from our representatives of law and order and the equanimity and calmness that we need to present the philosophy. And I know we're supposed to be able to both. I know we're supposed to be able to juggle both. But in any case, some things just demand a lot of our time and don't leave the room, the space that we need in order to give class. I believe we probably suspended the classes about mid-March and April. So this is third week in April. That would mean about 5 weeks suspension. Now we're going to get busy again with some more travel. Texas on May 11th. My old friend Batsal is having a festival in Texas. I'm going there. And then on May 17th, got to talking to a lady who ordered some colors. Her name is Preeti Grigorishan. She's married to an Eastern European. She's organizing a color festival in Kentucky, Owensboro, Kentucky. So we got to talking. She said, at one point, she said, I want you to come out, MC our festival, give your song. So she bought me a ticket. I'll be there on 17th of May and then 25th of May in Calgary, Canada. Then 1st of June, Ogden, and 8th of June will be Salt Lake City. During my absence, I'm relying on Brent to give a couple of the Sunday evening talks. But at least we'll have the rest of April and a couple weeks in May. So we'll have 3 weeks, maybe 10 sessions altogether. It's interesting too that at the point at which we suspended the last classes, we'd reached exactly 100 episodes of the Ganesh Lila called Ganesh Moksha as 145-minute talks, many of them setting the scene, the Trikuta Mountain whose shores are washed by the ocean of milk and produces emeralds on the beach at the base there, the description of the heavenly planets and Gajendra's background, his family history, his previous life. And then we started it on the 28 prayers of Gajendra, and so far we've reached only the third of 28 prayers. So we can easily envision another maybe 100 sessions all about Gajendra. And one other thing before we launch or relaunch into it, let me just announce to you, if you're not already aware of it, Chaitanya Charan is in town again. He visits us once a year and spends a couple of days giving brilliant discourses in the evening in Salt Lake City. He's arriving this afternoon, I believe, and he'll be talking tonight in the Salt Lake City Temple, as well as tomorrow on life lessons from the Ramayana. He's written a book on this subject matter, and therefore I expect him to be very well informed, even more than usually informed on the subject matter. 6:30, both tonight, Monday night, and tomorrow night, Tuesday night, at the Salt Lake City Temple. I'll be there tonight at least. But let me resume our discussions with my own song, which bears on the topic today. Gajendra, king of the elephants, was sporting on a heavenly planet, courting his wives in a lotus-filled lake, cavorting in the waters. He'd snorted some honey with his trunk, and he was quite drunk. Crocodile latched on his leg with his jaw, and though he stamped, trampled, and stampeded, he couldn't get the croc to withdraw. In this tug of war, Gajendra was losing the fight to stay upright, being dragged from the shore, nagged by the reptile, and his strength was flagging day by day. Lacking the backing of the other pachyderms, Gajendra was alone in this danger zone. The water had turned to foam, his friends had flown, and there was no one to phone. Devoid of his fabled strength at the end of his rope's length, Gajendra's hopes turned to the Lord, who awards protection to his devotees. Gajendra stopped pulling on his leg, which the croc wanted to devour, and with his trunk he plucked from the muck of the lake a lotus flower and offered it, seeking the Lord's power. Krishna, you're the root of creation, the fruit of Vedas, the absolute truth, who plays on your flute, the ever-existing youth. Your lotus feet are adored by Lord Brahma and Shiva, neither of whom leave you, not even for a beat. Your features are unlimited. You're the ingredient of all creatures. Whether they have hands, claws, jaws, or paws, they are all your parts and parcels. Those who are smart engage in your devotion service with all their hearts. You guard those who never depart from the hearth of your sheltering breast. Lord, I confess I've messed up, repressed my service, failed to test. But I'm thirsty for your mercy, which is greater than my mistakes. I've heard that all it takes to awaken your protection is a single cry of helpless perfection. Lord, in spite of my shame, I'm calling your name in the middle of the fight. Please reclaim me from the might of the crocodile's bite. When I'm released from the teeth of the croc, block ignorance of my life and lock me under your devotional service. Lord, let my purpose rise once again to the surface. I'm knocking at your door. Please keep me close from now until evermore. When the Lord heard the eloquent prayers of the elephant, he steered, rooted the spot, and with his chakra, he sheared the crocodile's head from his body. When the reptile lay dead and Gajendra was shed of his dread, he resumed the thread of his prayers and said, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's take that couple of lines from that song. You're the ingredient of all creatures. Your features are unlimited. Whether they have hands, claws, jaws, or paws, they are all your parts and parcels. This is essentially what this third of the 28 prayers of Gajendra is saying. Yajmiridam yatas chedam. In the Vedas, we find this phrase that Yajmiridam, whatever there is, it rests on him. Yatas chedam, Yajmiridam, everything rests upon him. Yajmid chedam, everything comes from him. And then Yenadam, Yaidam Shayam, everything is manifested by him. These are the various features of the Lord as he telescopes out, and from his original spiritual personality, his original spiritual form, he creates first this pradhan, this material creation. Then he glances at the material creation and impregnates the material creation with all of the parts and parcels. And then from his glance and having been impregnated in material creation, and again being material creation being agitated by the karma of the previous lives of the living beings, everything activates. Just like you have water, which is very peaceful and calm, unruffled, but as soon as the wind comes, then the water manifests itself in terms of various waves. There's a verse, Jyotir yatagna pritagditayatam. Jyotir yatagna pritayatatam. This is a verse in the, let's see, Jyotir Pritayatatam. Where is this verse from? Third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that when the wind agitates the water, and then the water appears in various waves and things like that, it's explained similarly that when our mind becomes agitated with the desire, the craving to enjoy the sense objects of this material world, then we as eternal, essentially, intrinsically unruffled, serene, calm, joyful living beings, when we look outside of ourselves and askance at the material energies of the Lord, and we develop an attraction for the energies of the Lord rather than the Lord, then we forget who we are. We become distant, separated from our original spirituality, our peacefulness, our harmony, and our calmness. And we start to identify with the waves of material nature. There are 8,400,000 pieces of life, and every body, every single body that presents itself to us from the material world corresponds to a certain psychological condition, a certain proclivity to enjoy material nature, certain psychology, you might speak. So the living entity then identifies with the waves. Now a reptile, now a bird, now a mammal, now a human being, now a demigod. And all these different forms amongst the various species of life are just like waves that are created when the water is agitated. So the creation comes originally from the Lord. He's a person, distinct from the creation, from his separated energies, Maya Dakshina Prakriti Sute Satchara Hetarina Jagat. He's the cause of material creation. This material creation is symptomized by the action of cause and effect. For every effect, there's a cause. Every cause has a previous, every effect has a previous cause. So Krishna starts all that in motion. He himself has no cause, but he is the cause of all causes. So you have the personality of Krishna, then you have emanating from him this material creation, which is symptomized by a hugely complicated quagmire of cause and effect. And then from that material creation, the Lord again glances. The material is his inferior energy, and when he glances, he's impregnating material energy with his superior energy, with spiritual entities who are of the same nature as the Lord, but who are not supreme. We are qualitatively one with the Lord, but quantitatively inferior. He's great, and we're very small. Examples given, Biden's an American, I'm an American. We have that in common. However, Biden's much more powerful than I am. He just signed a bill for a 60 billion aid package to Ukraine and Israel. So I don't marshal, I don't command $60 billion worth of resources. I pay the bills for the temple at the end of the month. It's maybe $10,000. So Biden pays bills, Biden allocates funds, I allocate funds. He allocates 60 billion, I allocate maybe 8, 10,000. So there are similarities, but there are also differences. We have to be aware of both. The Mayavadi philosophers stress only the similarities. And you'll hear them often saying, you are that supreme. The Mayavadi spiritualists, swamis, they address each other, Om Namo Narayana. That means I'm greeting God. One God greets another one as God, and the other returns the greeting by saying, God returns the greeting from God. So they brush aside the difference, the vast differential between God's power and our power. So we're breaking it down here, how God is everything. Your ingredients are unlimited. He is everything. From that one personality of Godhead, he manifests his inferior energy in terms of the inert material elements. He glances into that material nature, and through that glance, the jivas, who are called marginal energy, they're of the same quality as God, they're spirit, but they're not of the same power as God. So he impregnates material nature with the jivas, and they agitate material nature just as the wind agitates the ocean, and the ocean becomes choppy, and there's different forms which arise and change and manifest and mutate constantly. And an ocean and a wind, it's mutating constantly. And so the living being going from one little wave to another little wave to another, identifying with this body and that body and that body in this material world. But what we're seeing here, what we're illustrating here, is that actually it's all Krishna. But Krishna is such a creator that when he creates the living beings, the jivas, such as you and me, he gives us free will, doesn't create us as automatons, robots, pre-designed, pre-programmed to do his will. He makes us, each and every one of us, in his image. And what that means is that we have free will. We have the freedom to make good decisions, and we also have the freedom to make bad decisions. So all those living entities who enter into material bodies, different names, shapes, and forms, all of which are illusory, they have made the bad decision to leave the shelter of Krishna's spiritual world, his internal energy, and try their luck in this material world. Krishna baliya se jiva bahira taiva maya tada shamshadadaka. The commonality between all living entities in this material world is they've made a wrong decision to forget the Lord and to try their luck in this inferior energy of the Lord, this material world. Problem is, you do have your free will. You do have the right to make good decisions or bad decisions. But the problem is that whatever the results of your decisions, it's all temporary. Your material body is temporary. This material world is temporary. All the elements of the material world, constant state of flux and change. The only constant, the only reality is Krishna. Sarv Kalv Idam Brahma. He is the person from which the stuff of this material world is made. Therefore, being able at last to focus on the singularity, the integral whole from which everything comes, who is a person, Gajendra is now free of illusion. Just prior to the crocodile latching on his leg, he was riddled with attachments, riddled with illusion. His consciousness was fragmented all over the map. He had his cute little kitties, he had his wives, he had his beautiful heavenly environment. He was on a first name basis with the demigods. It's hard to imagine a personality more absorbed in the material manifestation, the names, forms of this material world than Gajendra just before the crocodile grabbed onto his leg. And by the mercy of Krishna, some people might have said, well, if Krishna was merciful, he would have let him continue to enjoy. The problem is, Krishna loves us too much to leave us stuck in this material world, however temporarily pleasant it might be. Ultimately, they're the hard realities. Dukkalium asashatam. Even if you get a niche, comfortable niche, like Gajendra did in the heavenly planets, with a body that's like the king of the elephants, with beautiful multi-wives, a harem of elephant wives, and a bunch of children, sporty in the waters, you're drunk. There's a hard truth that everything comes to an end. Everything comes to an end. I saw a picture of an old lion on the internet the other day. You know, I think the lion is the king of the jungle. He's not the king of anything. Whenever the lion enters into any part of the jungle, the watchdogs, the birds and all, which have a bird's eye view, they immediately start sending out alarm calls. So all the other animals leave the jungle. It's not that because the lion is so-called the king of the jungle, that his food enters into his mouth while he's sleeping. He has to work harder than anybody because everybody's aware of the danger he presents, and they all split. So for a lion to be able to feed himself, he has to be really strong. He has to be very powerful. He has to be on top of his game to be able to take down prey, which is focused on eluding him. Not only that, but there are other lions also who want what he has. They want his position, his influence. They want his wives. They want to produce children by his female lion. So there's constant pressure to feed himself. If he doesn't feed himself, he becomes weak. And if he becomes weak, he becomes vulnerable. He can easily be killed by one or even more lions who gang up on him. So how long can you keep yourself at the top of your game? If a lion lives for 12 or 13 years, it takes him 5 or 6 years before he reaches maturity. Then he may become the king of the lion. He may get his own pride, his own wives, and have his own children. And then he's got to feed them at great difficulty. He's got to protect from other lions who want to kill him, want to compete with him. How many years can he keep that up? 2, 3 more years? By the time the lion gets 9 or 10 years old, he's lost a step. He's a little slower. He's a little less aware. He's worn down by all the fights that he's had. There is no lion who just, goes to bed, doesn't wake up in the morning. The lions are either killed when they slow down, when they become a little weakened by old age. They're killed, or they fail again to capture the prey. The prey is more successful in eluding them because the lion's no longer as quick and sharp as he was. He practically dies of starvation. This picture that I saw of this lion, once powerful, glorious, so-called king of the jungle, his ribs were showing. He was pitiful, just a bag of bones. That's the destination. So although Gajendra was enjoying, like anything, with eyes of knowledge, we can see that that is temporary, that is short-lived. The so-called prominence of this material world, short-lived. It is illusory, it is unsatisfying, and it gives way to bitterness, defeat, humiliation. Krishna loves us too much. He loved Gajendra too much. After all, Gajendra was a great devotee from his previous life. He was King Indradumna, who worshipped the Lord with great devotion and attention, who directed his citizens to the devotional service of the Lord. Krishna was very fond of the soul, body of Gajendra from previous life. So he took the opportunity of Gajendra's venturing into the water to bring about that situation which would revive Gajendra's consciousness from his previous life and help him remember He's not this body. He's not an elephant. He's not any of the waves that are tossed and turned in the ocean of this material world, but he is an eternal spirit, soul, part and parcel of the Lord. Because he is spirit, therefore we have a relationship, we have a connection to our Creator, our supreme loving Father. But because we are not the supreme spirit, we don't have the power of God, our connection is established or reestablished, as the case may be, through service. And Gajendra is reviving that service. Just a few minutes ago, before the crocodile, precipitating him into a life and death situation, his conversation, his thoughts were all about his wives, his children, his best buddies, the demigods, the weather, the food, the drink, the place to sleep, the stimuli from sense gratification. Now, all of a sudden, in the twinkling of an eye, on a dime, everything is turned around. And Gajendra's consciousness, from being all over the map, is now starting to pull itself together. Yata dipo nivatato nenkatesha para yataganashanam niharam ivabashkara. The soul who is awake, is described in the Bhagavad Gita, is likened to a lamp in a windless place. The soul who is asleep and unaware of one's own true nature and is walking into the very dangerous situation of this material world, little aware of what he's putting himself, subjecting himself to. The soul who's awake is known by the integration of consciousness. The soul who's asleep, Krishna says, those who are on the path back to home, back to Godhead, are single-mindedly focused on the source of everything, who is also the source of the material ingredients, as well as the source of the living beings, and as well, in addition, is that causeless personality from whom emanate both the material and the spiritual elements. Those who are in knowledge are single-mindedly focused on the supremacy and the all-pervasiveness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He pervades and supports every part of this material creation. So one who begins to reawaken no longer sees the worlds of all the various names and ingredients, but he sees Krishna everywhere. Krishna as the unseen, the unmanifested form behind everything. Krishna describes himself thusly to Arjuna in the 4th verse of the 19th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Maya tadam idam sarvam jagat abhyakta murtina machtani buddhi nachaham teshu vasira. Krishna says, I am the supreme causeless person from whom this world of cause and effect is emanated, and by whom this world is impregnated with millions and millions of living beings who have misused their independence and departed the spiritual world and come to this material world. Krishna says, everything rests upon me, just as an earthen pot rests on the earth. Now consider all the layers of meaning in this example. Consider an earthen pot. You cannot separate the earthenness from the pot. That's why it's called an earthen pot. One time, Mirabai, the great devotee of the Lord, was challenged by her in-laws. They said, do you give up your Krishna consciousness or we'll kill you? We'll find some way of poisoning you or killing you. And she said, you want me to give up my Krishna consciousness? She held up a pot made of earth. He said, can you separate the earth from the earthen pot? Can you have a pot that's not made of earth? Can you have an earthen pot that's not comprised of earth? So you cannot. Krishna consciousness, Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema Sadhu Kavana. Krishna consciousness is the original consciousness of a living end, whether it's awakened or whether it's asleep, whether it's conscious or whether it's dormant, that is who we are. You cannot separate basic, essential Krishna consciousness from us. We may not be Krishna conscious, we may not have awakened it, we may have covered it, we may have forgotten it, we may have repressed it, but that's still who we are. Still who we are. You may subject water to excessive cold and water becomes hard. Or alternatively, you expose water to excessive heat and it becomes vapor or gas. However, in its natural condition, water is liquid. Water is always water. Sometimes you can artificially make it hard and cold, or artificially make it ephemeral and gaseous. But in its natural state, what water is, its constitutional position, its dharma, its intrinsic characteristic is that it's liquid. So you may be in consciousness of Krishna, or you may be in forgetfulness of Krishna, but the fact is that you are still originally and potentially a Krishna conscious living being. That's a fact that nobody can change, nobody can alter. I've silenced my phone, but some or other a call is coming in through the computer. Let me disconnect that. People are starting to call with color orders this early in the morning. Let me take this interruption to welcome Natasha to our. It's amazing that after almost 6 weeks of not having these classes, we jumped back online almost at random. And Brent is right there. Brent, in fact, asked me last night, are we going to resume the classes on the morrow? And I said, yes, we are. Dibya Joshi's here. Sundari Priya's here. Natasha's here. Thank you, Natasha. Brent has some poetry. He's complimented our own words thus far with a little bit of poetic verse as follows. We're not here by chance, but by Krishna's glance. We go from wave to wave by the free will Krishna gave. We can perpetually roam through the material ocean foam, or we can cross the ocean to go back home. That is excellent. That is really good. I want to encourage you, Brett. Continue this. You have a talent for it. And if possible, commit these to memory and add a little music and join me up on stage someday with the festive colors. Once again, we're not here by chance, but by Krishna's glance. We go from wave to wave by the free will Krishna gave. We can perpetually roam through the material ocean foam, or we can cross the ocean to go back home. I absolutely love that. And Priya Krishnadas joins us. Priya Krishnadas was coming on board every day from New York before we interrupted. And the first day, the first half an hour back, bam, back with us again. Priya Krishnadas is so happy to join today. Blissful Monday, Prabhuji. Please accept my obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nice. Thank you very much for your contributions, for your support. It certainly enlivens me. I had a young lady coming for the first time yesterday down after the talk. The talk was called Sunshine on a Cloudy Day. And downstairs when we were having dinner, she made it a point to call me over to where she was sitting. And she said, I really enjoyed your talk. I told her I had noticed her in the crowd paying particular attention. And from what I've learned here and there about communicating, when you're speaking, the best communicators don't speak to an audience. They don't speak to this impersonal organism called an audience. The best speakers, one of the techniques used by the best speakers, and I'm not saying I'm the best speaker, but I'm saying I'm trying to learn from the best speakers, is you notice those people in the audience who are paying particular attention. You try not to notice or to be distracted by the kids who are whispering each other or squirming, or by the ones that are looking surreptitiously on their phone, or by the ones that have that 1,000-yard stare, or the ones that are obviously agitated, squirming in their seats. But you find in a crowd, say of 40 or 50 people, you find those 3 or 4 who you can see their antennae are out. They're totally focused on what you're saying. It's creating a transformation, a potential transformation in their lives. This is revolutionary for them. Life-changing, exciting. They're on the verge of something. They're sitting there on the edge of their seats. They're leaning a little bit forward, which is a sign of attention. And you can almost imagine them having big ears. I shared this with this young lady, and I said, I had noticed that you were particularly attentive during the class. So you were one of the 3 or 4 people that I was having a conversation with. The best talks are conversational. You look at those who are maintaining eye contact, who are on alert, who are fully attentive, those who are listening, who are hearing seriously, and you have a conversation with them. This was how Prabhupada came to the attention of his own spiritual master. Bhaktisiddhanta noticed how whenever he would give a talk, of all the different people in the audience, Prabhupada was one of the few who was most attentive. And his spiritual master paid him the ultimate compliment by saying, you are very good at hearing. By hearing attentively and seriously, one pleases the line of disciplic succession, the previous acharyas. They smile upon that attentive listener. They speak particularly and pointedly to that person. That person inspires them. They get their inspiration from the people in the audience who are supporting them. It's a love affair. It's a love affair. The relationship between the student and the spiritual master evolves into a love affair. The student can't live without the nectarine words from the spiritual master. And the spiritual master needs, at least in any audience, 3 or 4 serious listeners. Otherwise, he himself says, what's the use? Every spiritual teacher needs students, disciples, who are worthy of the name. And vice versa. So the relationship between the teacher and the student evolves into a kind of a love affair. So this example is given by the student Gajendra to his Lord and Master Krishna. As Krishna has appeared on the back of Garuda, there's a conversation taking place. Gajendra is giving his prayers, his praise to Krishna. And what is Krishna doing? He's listening. He's listening. Krishna has come personally on the back of Garuda to cut the crocodile's head from his body. We'll talk more about who the crocodile was, what his background is, and the fact that he's being killed by the Lord is to his great good fortune. Even when the Lord kills, he blesses, but that's subject matter for another day. So the Lord is listening. The Lord, you can imagine the Lord, the God, the creator of millions of universes, the cause of all causes, who himself has no cause, is wrapped in attention, listening, immobile, like a statue, to Gajendra as he offers these 28 prayers to the Lord. And this example is given. An earthen pot is earth. You cannot separate the earthenness from the pot. Now, take this a step further. The pot is manufactured by a potter. Pots don't just come randomly. Wherever you see something organized, manufactured, there will be a manufacturer. So the pot is manufactured by the potter, and his body is also made of earth. There's connection number 2. Now the potter's wheel. That the pot was, you've all seen how the pot is fashioned and contoured by being turned on a wheel. There's water. The clay is still flexible and malleable. And the expert potter spins it and creates grooves and creates a neck, creates a mouth, creates a body of it. And so that wheel is also made of earth. The ingredients which the pot is made are made of earth. So it is earth, which is the foundational principle of the potter, the potter's wheel, the end result of the pot. Similarly, it is Krishna, Ishvara, Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda. He is the cause from which this manifestation comes. He enters into this manifestation to support and maintain it. And when it is time for the cosmic annihilation, everything retracts itself back into the transcendental form of the Lord. Therefore, he is the original cause of all causes. He himself has no other cause, and his body is nothing to do with matter. He does not have a material body, as the monists or the Mayavadi or the impersonalists would say. Rather, he has a form which is made of Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha. We also, as his marginal representations, are spirit, but because we're tiny spirits, we become conditioned, overwhelmed, eclipsed by the material energy, and we end up as spirit souls in forgetfulness of Krishna, in bodies made of mucus, bile, phlegm, covered with hairs and skin and all kinds of obnoxious elements. However, when Krishna comes to this self-same material world, and assumes the role of a historical personality, an actor in the Yadu dynasty, the friend of Arjuna, the husband of the goddess of fortune, the brother of Draupadi. He comes in his original spiritual body. It's nothing to do with flesh and blood and urine and stool. Rather, it is a body of Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. So somebody is very diligently and persistently trying to get hold of me on the phone in order to make a color order and to pay for it, thus supporting financially our mission here in Utah. This is one of the reasons why we had to suspend our classes there for a number of weeks, because the holy season, in addition to being our busy time when we do our own festive colors and Spanish fork on a massive scale, it coincides with the date of the actual holy. And so I get calls morning, noon, and night on the weekends, the weekdays, from people who want to buy colors for their own events all over the country. It's somewhat abated now, the actual date of holy having passed, but we'll continue to get color orders throughout the summer for color runs and color events. Pretty much continues until Thanksgiving, and we're grateful for that. Krishna has landed us this backyard business right into our own laps. It has actually done a lot to support, to buy the property in Salt Lake City and to build the temple up there. And so, yeah, I'm going to balance everything. It's 16 past the hour in any case. Let me finish by saying how happy I am to be back with you all again. Priya Krishna, Brent, Natasha, Sundari, Priya, Divya. I'm not sure Bhai Bobby's even aware yet that we're resuming these classes, but she may jump on here in the future. This has been Motivational Monday. We'll be back with you tomorrow for Transcendental Tuesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Sorry, I'm a little out of practice. I forgot the most important thing. Brett, Rob, you have anything for us here that we can publish along with the talk itself?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you can call me Brent anytime. That's a step up in my book.
I'm getting the dust, the cobwebs out of my brain after so long. Sorry.
I feel the same way, but I was able to come up with some stuff.
Okay, super. Lay it on us.
Krishna is the cause and source that set this creation on its course.
Sweet.
Even if you enjoy like anything, death comes even for a king. Everything can be different just like that, completely changed at the drop of a hat.
Truer words were never spoken.
And whether earth or pot, nothing can be what it is not.
Whether earth or pot, nothing can be what it is not. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. You know, I like it so much because both you and Brent and occasionally Natasha, as well as Carmen, you know, you expand upon the topic. So it creates a much wider front. I'm grateful for that. So please do send those to me. I will post them. And in the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow morning for Transcendental Tuesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare.